Suffering, suffering. Marshall time we are change is coming. Change coming. Change coming.
St. Michael, so central. We need a change in our cell.
Somehow I never get tired of that song. Good evening. Good evening, Taitt Hill. Good evening, Thorpe's Cottage, Walkers. Good evening, St. George North. Good evening, St. George North. Good evening, Barbados Labour Party family. Good evening, Barbados. I feel good tonight. How y'all feel? I feel real good tonight. I feel especially good tonight after that big conference weekend that we just had. I feel especially good tonight after 2 nights of hearing Toni Moore talk to us about who she is, what she stands for, what she will do in the name of the people of St. George North and Barbados, and what her plans are, not just for this constituency, but what her plans are for how she's going to engage with her colleagues and with the country to make sure that she lifts us to another level of representation in this constituency. So St. George North, if I feel good tonight, you all should feel fantastic because you all are getting Toni Moore. Y'all are getting more. Y'all don't feel good about that? But it will only happen, friends, if you go out on November 11th and make it clear who we want and that we are happy with the direction in which Mia Amor Motley and this administration are taking this country. We have to make that statement. When I first took this platform in Flat Rock, at the start of all this, there were fewer candidates in this race than there are now. Since that night, all kinds of people are popping up out of the woodwork and say that they're paying deposits. Now, it takes more than paying a deposit. If only that were all it took. It takes a lot more than simply jumping up at the last moment and saying that you want to represent people. It takes being interested in people. It takes commitment. It takes character. It takes understanding that you have to be driven and you have to work hard and that you have to have a plan. And so that rather than taking your finger and pointing out neighborhoods and houses and who got pit toilets and who ain't got pit toilets, it takes walking around, as Toni Moore has been doing, house by house, person by person, and quietly and in a dignified way, helping people in a way that helps them to maintain their dignity. St. George North, that is what it takes. And I don't understand how you can come now as a candidate and not understand who Barbadians are. How you can stand up and point fingers and talk about people's circumstance in order to win favor and not understand that Bajans don't roll so. You don't know who you are representing. You don't know who you are claiming to want to represent. Well, I'm telling you tonight that Toni Moore knows the Barbadian people that she is representing. And she is walking house to house with all of our help in a dignified way, listening to people. That is what representation looked like. Glenn Clark showed us that. And he is walking with her, and she is following that example. And I mean, listen, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I understand what it is to want to help. I understand that Floyd wants to help. I don't blame the young gentleman for wanting to help. Everybody has something to offer. Everyone has something to give, but only one is the best choice for this constituency of St. George North, and that one is Tony Moore. Let us not get it twisted. This is not the time, St. George North, for experimenting with your representation. The Prime Minister always says that many hands make light work. And there are all kinds of roles for people to play. And so I am not one of those people who will tell anybody that there's no place for them. I say if you are about your community, start showing that you're about your community. It's not just know that you're from about here. You don't have to wait until a swearing in if you want to help people. I hope you don't wait until a swearing in, because you're not going to get sworn in. Not as the representative for St. George North. I'm sorry to let you know that Tony Moore, with the will of the people of St. George North, will be that person on that day. But I want us to understand that we cannot play with this representation in this constituency, in this country, in these times. Barbados is at a crossroads. This is not a Kildare moment, this is a crossroads moment. When we first came to service in this country, we had a huge task ahead of us. And we all know where things were when this Barbados Labour Party government came to service. And then, having stabilized things, having gotten the sewage off the streets, having made sure that we could save the dollar, which we did, we were then hit with COVID. I saw somebody put a meme up on Facebook that said, 2020 is like looking both ways before crossing the street and then getting hit by an airplane. Because that's how it feels. It is something that you could not have planned for. COVID is something that we never saw coming. But here's the thing. Ever since we got word that this thing was happening, the Prime Minister of this country and her team, we didn't wait to see who was doing what. We didn't wait to see what was happening in the UK and the US. We got to work. We got to work building the facility at Harrison Point. We got to work under the leadership of Jeffrey Bostic to make sure that we were not followers, but we were leaders in this community, in this region, and in this world. And now what is happening? The rest of the world is watching Barbados, little Barbados. In the last decade, nobody was watching us except to look for where the next mistake was coming from. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a moment to play with your representation in Parliament. These are serious times. And this is also not the time, St. George North, to be equivocal at all. This is not the time to send any mixed message at all about the choice that you made 29 months ago. And I have to ask myself, where Floyd was then? Was he there at downgrade number 20? At downgrade number 21, and then 22, and then 23, and on and on and on? Was he there? Because how could he be there and then want to associate with that record? Who in their right mind would want to associate with that record? That was not ancient history that we're talking about. This is 29 short months ago. But you don't even have to look back 29 months ago. You only need to look back last week or a week before, when right there on his own platform, a certain former member, he says, of this party, who is seeking, perhaps for his own reasons, to associate himself elsewhere. But just a few short days ago, that individual got on Floyd's platform and said that the reason that he is annoyed with this government is that they didn't lock up the very people he is up there representing. He stood on a platform for the Democratic Labour Party and complain that members of the Democratic Labour Party weren't locking up. So you don't have to go back 29 months ago to be embarrassed by the record of the Democratic Labour Party and to want to distance yourself from it. One of the things that I have learned, my mother taught me over and over and over, is that it matters with whom you associate. It matters with whom you walk about. It matters with whom you sit at a table and come up with policy. It matters with whom you align yourself. It is important to understand the principle of shared values. And that is why we took the time as a Barbados Labour Party to write the Covenant of Hope. And I want Barbados Labour Party family to never forget that covenant. It is something that we sat and put together because you, Barbados, have to know the values of the people who are going to be working in your name. Who are we? What do we stand for? And what we will do in your name. I remember when we were working as a team, as an economic team, with the Prime Minister years ago, getting ready for a moment like this. And we were sitting down, coming up with economic policy and thinking about all the things we would have to do on coming to service to fix the many, many, many problems that the Democratic Labour Party administration had created. And I remember the Prime Minister talking about these principles of fairness and a development model that puts people and workers at the center. And she went on and on about it so often in our policy making that I would think to myself, and I can't even tell y'all, don't tell her that I said so because everybody could hear me. But at the moment, I remember thinking, but wait, this woman don't know that I am coming with these values already. This woman doesn't understand that these principles of justice and equality, the principles that Tony Moore spoke to you about on Friday, the principles that she spoke to you about yesterday, that I am coming with these things, but you know what? She had to check. And Ryan Strachan is going to be on this platform tonight, and he will tell you that over and over and over with her economic team, she didn't just want to hear about numbers, she didn't just want to hear about strategy, but the Prime Minister wanted to make sure that we understood that fairness must govern everything we do. That is the Barbados Labour Party way. And that is why I say, not just to Floyd, but to all of us here tonight, is that the record that we want to align ourselves with? Because the Democratic Labour Party administration at the time had two clear problems. One was that they did not have the capacity with a Minister of Finance who was planning to learn it on the job, and in 10 years, in Learn It Yet. They didn't only have the capacity, they not only lacked the capacity, but they did not care. Because if you care, you go and find people who can do the job that you can do. But they're also telling you, regrettably, in their choice of a candidate in this constituency, that they also don't care. They still don't care. Because you need to have, especially now, people who can speak, not just for you, St. George North, but who can speak for this country. As a team, one of the things we are doing now is looking at this issue of debt. Because every country in the world had to take on debt to deal with this thing called COVID. And one of the things we're saying to the international community is that, listen, we need another way of dealing with debt. And we are sitting at the table and we're going over these things because they matter. And why do they matter to you? They matter to you because the terms of that debt make a difference in what we as a government are able to spend money on. make a difference on fixing the roads that have already started to be fixed here in St. George North. They make a difference in terms of buying more buses, as you heard Ian Gooding I just say to you the other night. All of these international decisions make a difference to national decisions. And St. George North needs somebody who can make that case. And I'm not saying that there isn't a place for everyone, but there is only one choice, St. George North tonight, and that is Tony Moore. This is not a Kadir moment. This is a crossroads moment for this country. Since we're telling stories about the Prime Minister tonight, I'm going to tell another one. You know, there's so many people who see me around my constituency in St. Michael South Central or anywhere around Barbados. And they tell me that I look tired. I look tired tonight? Oh, good. They tell me that I look tired. And you know what they say? They say, oh, Mia got you working hard. I tell them, Mia ain't got me working hard. Mia find me working hard. And so she knows that I'm a hard worker and that I would have been working hard for the people of St. Michael South Central, just like she knows that Tony Moore is a hard worker and she is going to work hard for the people of St. George North. And the point that I'm making is that nobody ain't got me working hard. Nobody ain't got Adrian Ford working hard. Nobody ain't got Jeffrey Bostic working hard. We are motivated by our leadership, of course. But this is a party, a cabinet, a parliamentary party, a Barbados Labour Party of hard-working people. Tony Moore is one of those hard-working people that you need here in St. George North. I watch her. Walking up and down, listening to everybody. When we go back to her and say, listen, you go here, you go there, this body needs to see you, you go help this person, she just says, no problem. That is the kind of commitment. Keep your head down and do the work and stop looking around, complaining and begging for this and begging for that. Focus. That is what St. George North needs right now. Now, I think it is important to understand the difference between what you have and getting more of that and what St. George North you very clearly left behind when you voted 29 short months ago. And I told you from this platform in Flat Rock about the 6,000 people who would be returning to work under the BEST program. And I told you at that time as well about the 2,000 new jobs that will be created from the greening and the digitization in that program. And I told you at that time as well about the 2,000 additional jobs that would be created under the COVID recovery program, $40 million program that we launched a few weeks ago. But what I am here to tell you tonight is that this week, after the applications that we've received, 1,000 people will be back to work under the BEST program in the tourism sector as a result of launching this program. The recovery has started. And that is why we need to stay the course. We need to continue what we're doing. I told you at that time about the $120 million in unemployment benefits paid to 32,000 people. And there's something that I want to say tonight. You know, the BEST program is paying up to 80% in wages. Highest anywhere in the world. Germany, UK, all of them launched something similar. 60%, 70% they're paying. We are paying 80%. When Jamaica launched their recovery program, they were not coming anywhere close to the 600 that we were able to give to people as part of the recovery. These are the things that make a difference. It makes a difference how we govern, because it makes a difference about whether people will be able to stay afloat or not. It makes a difference about whether people can hold on to something or not. I want you to give Tony Moore the opportunity to make that difference here in St. George North. Tomorrow is a big day. It is nomination day. We are ramping up. And I want you, as you walk up and down these streets in St. George North, I want you to make it clear. Let us not equivocate on the message that we sent 29 months ago. St. George North needs more. On November 11th, you all need to go out, Barbados Labour Party, St. George North, and make sure that St. George North gets more, because that is what you deserve. Thank you and good night.
As we can work together, what? And protect the elder. Yeah.